Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to review David Copperfield's History of Magic. I pre-ordered this. It was available on Amazon. It's reasonably priced. I can't remember exactly what I paid for it. By the way, since purchasing this, David Copperfield has been advertising autographed versions. Oof. You know, I probably won't get one of the autographed versions, but I wish I had known that in advance. So I pre-ordered it. I couldn't wait for it to come. It arrived a few weeks ago. I've been perusing it ever since. Let me tell you my experience with it. Okay, so it arrives in the mail. I've been waiting for it with bated breath. I can't wait to look at it. Take it, and the first thing I do, I begin to flip through. And I'm not flipping through like this. I mean, I'm flipping through page per page from the beginning to the end. I'm flipping through. And I'm seeing all of the magnificent things that are in David Copperfield's museum out in Las Vegas. And I'm thinking, oh, I wish I could go and see this for myself. You know, and so just flipping through the book was a bit of an emotional experience because, you know, I've been reading histories of magic since I was a teenager. And I've read about some of the things that David Copperfield now owns. So to look through this and see a contemporary image of some of these things, I mean, and you get things like this, which are museum displays of certain magicians. In this case, it's Thurston. But just to flip through the book and see some of this. This is Arthur Lloyd's gown right here. Arthur Lloyd's gown. Let me share with you some of the other things that are in here. Oh, here is Robert Houdin's pastry chef. So it's just magnificent. Oh, Brother Dakota's expanding die. So Adelaide Herman's gown. So that just gives you some idea of what's in here. So I'm flipping through here and I'm having a bit of an emotional experience because I'm seeing some of the things that I have admired for ages. By the way, this right here is a reproduction of Martinka's theater in the back of their shop. You know, it's it was just an amazing experience to flip through. And then I went back to the beginning and I decided to think about, well, what kind of a history is it? Because he calls this History of Magic. Now, a history of magic. My favorite history of magic is The Secret History of Magic by Jim Steinmeyer. This is a true history of magic in that it starts at the beginning and weaves a story to the end. The History of Magic by David Copperfield does not do that. What David Copperfield does, more or less in chronological order, is he catalogs things that are in his museum and he tells you the backstory, not only behind the artifact or a prop, but also the performer that used it. Let me give you a sense for the table of contents so that you can decide what you want to do. Secrets of Conjuring Revealed. David Copperfield has an early edition or first edition of The Discovery of Witchcraft, and he talks about that. The Pastry Chef. David Copperfield owns the Robert Houdin Pastry Chef. Prestidigitation and the Presidency. Wyman the Wizard's Cap and Pence. Will the Witch and the Watchman. John Neville Maskelyne's trunk. Very significant prop. The Man Who Knows. Alexander's turban. P is for private. Professor Hoffman's notebook. This Is My Wife. Brother Dakota's expanding die. We're off to see the wizard. Henry Keller's nest of boxes. The Queen of Magic. Adelaide Herman's dress. And by the way, in every single one of these chapters where a performer is mentioned, whether it's Professor Hoffman or Brother Dakota or Henry Keller or Harry Keller, David Copperfield gives you a biological sketch of that performer. And he also adds some personal anecdotes. When he knew the performer, when he was impacted by the performer. He says so, and he describes how it impacted his own performing. The Palace of Magic, the Martinka Theater. Oh, that was a beautiful thing to see and read about. Author unknown, the expert at the card table. David Copperfield owns one of the early editions of that. Notes on steam engines, pumps, boilers, hydraulic and other machinery, Max Malini's peculiar paraphernalia. Condemned to death by the boxers, Chung Ling So's gun, the gun that shot him. You know, he died doing the bullet catch, if you didn't know that. So, Escaping Mortality, the Houdini collection. The Magician Who Made Himself Disappear, Howard Thurston's Disembodied Princess. Lighter Than Air, Okito's Floating Ball. Yes, he owns Okito's Floating Ball. Divided, Dante's Sawing Illusion. Free Rabbits, the Harry Blackstone collection. The Suave Deceiver, Cardini's Tuxedo Monocle, and playing cards. You know, I remember, speaking of Cardini's playing cards, so I was sitting in George Gobel's, he had many rooms in his home filled with props. This is an upper room. He had a dollhouse that was owned by Harry Houdini. And we're sitting at a table much like this one together. And he lays some cards in front of me. I could see that they were quite old. And I could see that they were gimmicked. And I knew immediately. He didn't have to tell me. I knew immediately what those were. Those were the Howard Thurston floating cards. And I said to him, did these belong to Thurston? And he said, yes, those are Thurston's cards. And I was if you're a magic historian, you're going to have an emotional reaction to these things. And David Copperfield, time and time again, describes the emotional reaction he has when he handles these props himself. And I know exactly what he's talking about. If they don't know you, they can't book you. That was said by Dell O'Dell, and David Copperfield owns her guillotine. In Pursuit of Perfection, Channing Pollock's Vanishing Birdcage. He also owns Channing Pollock's tuxedo. Blood on the Curtain, Richie Arty's Buzzsaw. Richie Arty, I'm going to do another video on Richie Arty. He's someone you can't miss. I think, David Copperfield mentions in this book what an influence Richie Arty was on his own performing. And when you go back and watch the videos, you can really see the influence of Richie Arty on David Copperfield. Richie Arty was a dancer, and he understood the significance of choreography, and he brought that to his magic, and that's exactly what David Copperfield does. The Man Who Fooled Houdini, Di Vernon's Dead List. The Mystery Box, Tannen's Magic Store. The Magic in Your Mind, Al Coran's Medallion. The Magician Who Believed in Real Magic, Doug Henning's Costume and Metamorphosis Trunk. On the Shoulders of the Giants, David Copperfield's Buzzsaw. Death Saw. Oh my goodness. So listen, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this little introduction to this book. It is affordable. If you love magic, if you love the history of magic, don't miss this. It is magnificent. I'll tell you what else. I'm going to see if I can put some of these links below. David Copperfield has done a number of interviews to promote this book, and those interviews are rich. Some of them are in depth. Some of them are an hour long. They're just fantastic. I'm going to try to put some of those links below also. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad that you do. Please comment down below, and please subscribe if you've not done so already. Have a great day.